She thought you would stay the same man forever. She thought your silence meant weakness, and your kindness meant comfort. She thought your heart was a place she could walk in and out of whenever her feelings shifted. But she was wrong, because evolution doesn't knock, it arrives like a storm, quiet at first, then unstoppable. And when a man finally rises, she feels the shift before he even opens his mouth. She sees it in your eyes and hears it in the calmness of your voice. You're not the same man anymore, and that realization shakes her more than anything you ever said. This is the story of your Stoic evolution, the kind of transformation that doesn't demand attention but commands it. The kind that makes people who underestimated you feel the weight of their own mistakes. The kind that happens when you break silently, rebuild patiently, and rise intentionally. It begins in a moment you almost ignored, a moment hidden behind everyday life, a moment that didn't look like destiny at first, but destiny rarely announces itself, because change in a man's life usually starts with a wound, not always a visible one. Sometimes it's just a sentence that lingers, a tone that cuts deeper than you admitted, a comparison you pretended didn't bother you, a small betrayal you shrugged off to keep the peace. A late-night argument where she didn't defend you, a moment where she entertained someone else's attention just to see your reaction. A time she used your vulnerability as leverage. These are the soft betrayals, quiet disloyalties, the little fractures that eventually form an entirely new Menand. You felt them, one after another, like rain that slowly becomes a flood. You didn't explode, you didn't shout, you didn't break, not publicly anyway, you just observed. Because observation is the beginning of wisdom. You watched how her tone shifted when her mood changed. You watched how your effort became her expectation. You watched how your support became invisible. You watched how your loyalty was taken for granted. You watched how she gave other people the attention you once earned. You watched how she suddenly needed space, only when you needed closeness. You watched how your dreams felt like burdens to her. You watched how you were becoming a version of yourself you didn't even respect anymore. And one day something inside you whispered, enough, not as anger, not as revenge, not even as sadness, just a quiet inner voice. A voice you had ignored for too long. A voice that finally rose from the dust of disappointment. When the shift began, it wasn't dramatic, it wasn't loud. It wasn't a scene from a movie. It was something far more powerful. You stopped trying to prove your worth. You stopped explaining your heart. You stopped arguing with disrespect. You stopped apologizing for things you didn't do. You stopped breaking yourself into pieces to make someone else feel whole. You didn't shut down emotionally. You leveled up, and she noticed. Trust me, she always notices, not in a single moment, but gradually, like watching a candle burn lower every night. She felt the distance you stopped trying to close. She felt the silence that no longer begged to be understood. She felt the peace in you that used to be panic. She felt the confidence in your steps. She felt the difference in your energy. She felt the shift in your presence, and it scared her because it was the first time. She realized she no longer controlled the atmosphere of your heart. Women feel emotional shifts faster than they feel physical distance, and nothing shakes a woman more than when the man she thought she understood becomes someone she no longer recognizes. But evolution changes everything she expected. The old version of you, the one who answered instantly, the one who explained endlessly, the one who forgave easily, the one who tolerated disrespect quietly, the one who kept giving chances even when they cost him pieces of his self-respect. But that version of you is gone, not because she hurt you, but because you finally realized you deserve more than surviving someone's inconsistency. Your transformation didn't start with her, it started with you. But she became the mirror that revealed. That's what this story is. A reflection, because your evolution isn't about becoming colder, it's about becoming clearer. And clarity changes everything. This part of your journey begins on a night you remember vividly. A night that didn't look special. No arguments, no big moment, no final straw. Just a simple, quiet evening where you were tired but not physically. Spiritually, emotionally, drained from carrying conversations, carrying hopes, carrying expectations, carrying a connection that felt heavier on your side. She said something small. Something she didn't think twice about, a subtle dismissal, a subtle jab, a subtle disregard. One of those comments she used to make because she thought you'd just brush it off, like always, but this time it didn't roll off you. It sat with you. It opened your eyes. It made you ask yourself a question you hadn't asked in years. Why am I tolerating a version of love that does not honor me? You didn't confront her, you confronted yourself. And that confrontation changed your life, because the first step in Stoic evolution is recognizing your own participation in your suffering. The second step is ending it that night. You didn't argue, you didn't chase, you didn't react. You just detached quietly, naturally, unapologetically. And the next morning, she noticed, not because you said anything, but because your silence carried a different weight. It wasn't passive, it was powerful. It wasn't confused. It was certain, it wasn't waiting. It was walking. You spoke less, but your presence said more than any words ever could. That was the beginning of your rise. What's make her she think non-stop about you? The shift she can feel but can't explain. The shift wasn't loud, it didn't announce itself, it didn't slam doors or raise voices. It moved through you quietly, like the turning of a season. One day you were winter, the next you were spring. She felt it long before she ever admitted it to herself. At first, it was small, barely noticeable, like a tiny crack in a glass that still looks perfect from far away, but up close, she saw it, she sensed it, she knew something was changing. You weren't rushing to reply, you weren't asking twice, you weren't explaining what was already obvious. You weren't begging for reassurance that never came. You weren't trying to read her mind anymore. You weren't stretching yourself to make her feel comfortable while you stayed uncomfortable. Your energy wasn't anxious, your focus wasn't scattered, your heart wasn't pleading, your attention wasn't desperate, you were calm. Too calm. A man's calmness is a language, and a woman who once felt entitled to your emotional chaos can read that language instantly. She started watching you, in ways she never did before, not because she loved you deeper, but because she realized she didn't recognize the version of you standing in front of her. The kind of clarity you gain when you finally accepted that your peace matters more than your longing, and the truth hit her harder than she expected. You were slipping out of the version she felt safe controlling. She called your name one night, and you answered differently, short, calm, stable, not irritated, not passive-aggressive. Just centered. She asked, "Is everything okay?" And you said, "Yeah, everything's good," but it wasn't the kind of good she was used to hearing. It wasn't the kind that hides pain. It wasn't the kind that asks for attention indirectly. It wasn't the kind that means, "Please fix this." It was the kind that means, "I've accepted what you are and what you're not, and I'm no longer fighting myself over it." That version of you terrified her because, for the first time, she realized you weren't reacting from emotion, you were responding from awareness. She tried to pull you back emotionally. She softened her tone, she acted sweeter, she used words she hadn't used in weeks, she tried to recreate moments, but nothing landed the same. And that's because you were no longer the same man. She had those moments with your evolution wasn't a performance. It was a shift in the architecture of your soul. You weren't punishing her, you weren't ignoring her, you weren't trying to make her chase, you were simply done participating in dynamics that exhausted you. You were choosing peace, and peace looks like distance to people who thrive on your chaos. There was another moment that shook her deeply, a moment that would have once led to a long conversation, but this time your reaction was different in a way she couldn't understand. She made a comment, a subtle disrespect disguised as a joke, something she had done before, something she thought you'd laugh off, something she assumed you'd absorb like always, but you didn't laugh, you didn't argue. You didn't correct her, you didn't defend yourself, you just looked at her, not with anger, not with disappointment, but with recognition. Recognition changes everything. It's the moment you see a person not for who you wanted them to be, but for who they aren't. That look told her without words, "I see you clearly now." She felt that look in her stomach because a man who sees clearly is a man she can no longer manipulate with confusion. That night she went quiet, not because she didn't want to talk, but because she was thinking, overthinking, analyzing every change. Why is he so calm? Why isn't he affected? Why doesn't he explain himself? Why doesn't he ask what's wrong? Why doesn't he react the way he used to? Why does he feel so far away? Why does he feel so composed? Why does he feel like a stranger in the best and worst way? And then the most dangerous thought entered her mind. Who is he becoming without me? Because she realized, maybe for the first time, your growth wasn't fueled by her, it was fueled by everything she did that made you question yourself for too long. This is where the betrayal becomes clear, not the loud betrayals, not the ones people gossip about, but the soft betrayals, the subtle dismissals, the empty reassurances, the quiet disloyalties, the inconsistent affection, the emotional irresponsibility, the moments where she should have been there but wasn't, the moments where you needed support and she chose distance, the moments where you showed love and she tested it instead of honoring it. Those betrayals don't break you instantly, they drain you slowly until one day you wake up stronger, colder, sharper, wiser, and she realizes she didn't lose you, she taught you to outgrow her hand. That's exactly what happened, piece by piece, not out of hatred, but out of necessity. She sees it now and it haunts her. Silence isn't a punishment, your distance isn't a tactic, your calmness isn't fake, your indifference isn't forced, this is evolution. And now, she's standing in front of a man she can't read anymore, a man she can't predict, a man she can't sway, a man who no longer bends, a man who no longer negotiates his peace, a man she never believed you had the strength to become. Now, slowly something happened, and it changes in her, feeling the regret she never expected. To feel regret doesn't arrive all at once, it comes in waves, quiet waves, unexpected waves, waves that show up in the middle of the night when the world is silent and the mind is loudened. That's exactly how it started for her. She didn't wake up one morning suddenly heartbroken. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't explosive. It didn't come from a big fight, it came from a slow realization, a creeping awareness, a soft sting that built over time. She began noticing the things she used to overlook. Your calm, your distance, your self-control, your lack of emotional dependency, your quiet strength, your growing stability, your sharpened focus, your sense of direction, your refusal to be dragged into drama, your unshakable discipline. These traits used to be invisible to her, not because you didn't have them, but because she was too focused on how much you needed her to see how much you were capable of without her. Now, the tables had turned, and she felt that the man she once assumed would always be available was now emotionally untouchable, not cold, just whole. And that difference hit her harder than anything. One day, she scrolled through her phone, through old messages, old pictures, old conversations, the moments where you poured your heart out, where you opened yourself, where you showed vulnerability, where you tried to fix things she broke, where you loved with both hands, and she realized, you're not that man anymore. Something inside her tightened, a subtle fear, a quiet ache, because women never expect the man who once adored them to become the man who no longer seeks them. She started remembering all the moments. She chose selfishness over softness moments. She picked pride over partnership moments. She shut down when you opened up moments. She dismissed your feelings. Moments she entertained attention from others. Moments she tested your patience. Moments she talked to you like you were replaceable, and now, watching you evolve, she realized she was the reason for her own loss. The sting, the betrayal she committed against herself without knowing. Because she didn't just lose you, she lost access to the version of you that would have done anything for her. But regret doesn't come alone. It brings jealousy, curiosity, nostalgia, and fear. She saw you leveling up, new goals, new habits, new confidence, new boundaries, new discipline, new people around you, new opportunities, new strength in your voice, new clarity in your eyes. She saw the changes not because you told her, but because your life started reflecting your inner work. You were becoming the man she always said she wanted. But at a time when she no longer had the influence she once had. That's when regret deepens, because she realizes she didn't just lose you, she lost the future version of you, the best version, the evolved version. And regrets like that never fade quickly. She started trying to pull you back. Not dramatically, not obviously, but subtly. Little messages, little questions, little compliments, little attempts at connection, trying to slip back into your emotional world like she used to. But you didn't respond the same. You weren't rude, you weren't distant out of anger. You just weren't anchored to her anymore. Your attention was no longer a gift she could expect. Your love was no longer something she could lean on whenever her mood shifted. Your presence was no longer her safety net. She realized something dangerous, something she never saw coming. You moved on emotionally, not to another woman, but to a higher version of yourself. And nothing is more threatening to someone who took you for granted than watching you evolve in real time. People fear losing access to who you used to be, not who you've become, because the old you was easy to manipulate, easy to predict, easy to control, easy to take advantage of, easy to overlook. But the new you, the stoic you, the centered you, the self-respecting you, that man is not accessible through old patterns. She tried using old tactics, but they broke against your new boundaries like waves crashing against stone. She tried being sweet, you were polite. She tried being distant, you stayed steady. She tried acting jealous, you didn't react. She tried comparing you, you didn't care. She tried pushing emotional buttons that once worked, but you had outgrown the need for validation that once controlled you. Evolution makes old manipulations useless. Growth makes old dynamics impossible, and self-respect makes old versions disappear. That's what she was facing. A man she could no longer influence, a man she could no longer destabilize, a man she could no longer guilt into staying small, a man who had risen above his old emotional limits. And with every day that passed, her regret deepened, because for the first time in her life she realized she wasn't dealing with a man who lost feelings. She was dealing with a man who found himself. The difference is massive and painful. She started looking at you the way women look at men they misjudged, the way people look at opportunities they wasted, the way humans look at doors they closed, without realizing what was on the other side. The betrayal you felt from her, she was now feeling from her own decisions. And here's the stoic truth: sometimes life doesn't punish people, it simply allows them to feel the consequences of the seeds they planted. She planted distance, she harvested detachment. She planted disrespect, she harvested boundaries. She planted inconsistency, she harvested indifference. She planted pride, she harvested regret. And the hardest part, no words can reverse it, because once a man evolves, he doesn't downgrade to fit someone's comfort. Your evolution is permanent, not because of her, but because you finally chose yourself. Here, what scared her the most, the one thing every woman avoid to face or escape in relationships, but can't escape or avoid, the moment come when she realizes you're gone. For rebirth, here comes a moment, a quiet, pivotal moment where everything becomes clear all at once, not with shouting, not with tears, not with a dramatic ending, just clarity. For her, that moment came the day she looked at you and finally understood something she never thought she'd have to face. You didn't stop caring, you stopped participating. You didn't lose feelings, you lost tolerance. You didn't become cold, you became wise. And wisdom looks like distance to the people who once fed on your closeness. She recognized it in your eyes, a calm she had never seen before, a peace she didn't know how to interpret, a confidence that made her feel small in the best and worst way, a presence that didn't revolve around her anymore. She asked you if you still cared, and you smiled. Not a big smile, not a sarcastic one, just a peaceful one. You said something simple, something honest, something she didn't expect. I care, but I'm not the man I used to be. Those words hit her harder than any heartbreak, because she finally understood what had been happening all along. Your evolution wasn't about her, it was about the man you were becoming, a man she could no longer reach with the behaviors that once kept you small. She realized she wasn't speaking to the emotional, the version of you who once waited for her attention. She wasn't speaking to the wounded version of you who once asked for reassurance. She wasn't speaking to the insecure version of you who feared losing her. She wasn't speaking to the forgiving, the version of you who overlooked everything to keep the connection alive. That man was gone, and in his place stood something far more powerful, a Man who knows himself, a man who respects himself, a man who understands his worth, a man who isn't afraid of walking away, a man who doesn't beg, a man who doesn't chase, a man who doesn't settle, a man who doesn't trade his peace for company. She saw the new version of you, the evolved version, the stoic version, and for the first time she understood the full weight of what she lost, not the relationship, not the moments, not even the love. She lost the privilege of being close to a man who finally learned how to value his own heart. And here's the part she never saw coming. You weren't angry, you weren't bitter, you weren't resentful, you weren't trying to prove anything. You were just free from emotional dependency, free from fear, free from attachment, free from the need to be chosen, free from the old version of yourself that lived for someone else's approval. Your silence wasn't punishment, it was peace. Your distance wasn't avoidance, it was alignment. Your calm wasn't indifference, it was maturity. Your refusal to engage wasn't coldness, it was growth. She looked at you, trying to find traces of the man she used to influence, trying to locate the version of you who once centered his world around her, but all she found was a man she should have valued while she had the chance. A man transformed. She tried one last thing, a soft voice, a gentle touch, a subtle question meant to pull you back emotionally. She asked, "Do you still need me?" Didn't hesitate. Not out of cruelty, but out of clarity. You said I needed you when I didn't know myself. Now I know myself. Those words shut every door she thought she still had open, because that's when she realized this isn't a phase. This isn't a reaction. This isn't a front. This is evolution, permanent, grounded, real. She walked away slowly, processing, hurting, thinking, replaying every moment she dismissed, every time she ignored your effort, every time she withheld affection, every time she took instead of giving, every time she assumed you'd always be there. Now she knows she didn't just lose a man, she lost a version of love she may never experience again. You walked away without looking back, not out of pride, but out of purpose, because a stoic man doesn't rise to prove people wrong. He rises to prove himself right. He evolves because stillness kills potential. He grows because the world requires it. He transforms because life demands it. He changes because staying the same is a slow death. You become the man your past self would be proud of, and the man your future self depends on. This is your stoic evolution, and the world will feel it, including the people who once thought you'd stay small. You are not the same man anymore, and that is your power. If this message hit home, if you felt this shift in your soul, drop your thoughts in the comments and share your experience. I want to hear your story. Watch the other videos on Stoic Spark to go even deeper into self-mastery, healing, discipline, and unstoppable evolution. If you're ready to keep growing every day, subscribe to Stoic Spark for daily Stoic wisdom, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a single moment of your evolution. This is your time, this is your rise, this is your Stoic evolution.